Hi everyone, welcome into another episode of Matt Sports Talk. And in this video, we are going to be looking over the updated ARC numbers. And I promised yesterday that if I did not see the updated ARC numbers posted by the end of yesterday afternoon, then I would be recording a video today going over that. And that is why I wanted to record this video and talk about that. And before we jump any further, and I apologize for my phone falling over, I'll try and adjust it here to where you can see my face, or see what we can do here. See if that's probably not going to, that's going to be too low. Just bear with me for just a second here. I'm going to try and set this. We'll try and see if that works. But I mentioned yesterday that I was going to the ARC numbers. When you think about ARC, in case you are brand new to my channel, let me try and tip my screen up a little bit more, and I apologize for the. There we go. That should work a little bit better. Okay. So again, I apologize for that. So I mentioned in the ARC numbers that these numbers, how you kind of have to look at the ARC is that it's basically, and of course I didn't know this until I watched other videos, that when you look at the ARC, it basically is a super big conference. When the NAIA groups several teams into one big conference, that's kind of the best way to describe it, at least how all that's done. Now, if you have 16 teams in your ARC, then that means that there are 4 conferences that are being merged together. So, for example, in the North ARC, you have the Crossroads represented. You also have the WAC, pardon me, you have the River States, and you have the CCAC, the Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference. Now, there are some other ARCs that only have 10 or 11 teams in that ARC. For example, in the South ARC, you have, of course, I believe, the HBCU in that conference, I believe the Red River, pardon me, as well as the Sooner Athletic Conference in the South ARC. And in the West, in terms of that, you have, of course, I know there's a lot of teams in the West ARC that are in the Cascade. A couple of other teams, I think one I know for sure is in the Great Southwest, and I think one or two is in the Frontier, and I believe one is in the CalPAC. So it obviously varies, whatever ARC you're in. Now, in the East ARC, you have a lot of teams in the Mid-South. You also have teams in the Southern States, as well as the Sun and the Appalachian Athletic Conference, the AAC. And then in the Midwest ARC, you have the GPAC. You also have the Heart of America, and you also have, I believe, the what's the other one? The KCAC. Yeah, KCAC. The Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference. So that's a breakdown of the ARCs. Now, when we talk about the teams in the ARC, I mentioned it's kind of like a huge conference, so to speak, with multiple teams. Now, again, now before we dive into the numbers, if you are a team in the very bottom of your ARC, that does not mean that you will not make the national tournament, because last year we had Spring Arbor and Huntington in the Crossroads League that were toward the bottom of the North ARC. They both ended up making the national tournament as an at-large bid. So obviously, just because you're down at the very bottom of your ARC does not necessarily mean that you will not make the national tournament. But obviously, the higher up you are in your ARC, more so the higher the odds of you making the national tournament. Now, with that being said, if you are a team that it's in these respective ARCs, you want to play teams within your ARC, not just in your conference, but you also want to do it with your non-conference schedule as well, because even if you lose those games to other teams in your ARC that are not in your conference, that doesn't really hurt you per se, it does strengthen your resume, so to speak, when you play other teams in your arc, that therefore would help you getting in to a national tournament. So in the last North Arc, we had the following order. We had St. Francis out of Indiana, Marion, Indiana. We had Rio Grande, that was third. Then Spring Arbor, Huntington, Taylor, Indiana Tech, Indiana Wesleyan, Bethel out of Indiana, Shawnee State, St. Francis of Illinois, Rochester Christian, Olivet Nazarene, Midway, St. Xavier, and Brescia. That was the last one as of 2 weeks ago. And again, these final ones before the national tournament are going to come out in 2 weeks, I believe on Tuesday, March 3rd. The final RPI and the final quad records will be out Monday, March 2nd. We do have one more RPI update coming out on Monday, so again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. And this is the place to be the first week of March, no doubt about it, because I'm going to be quite busy. So again, please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so you do not miss out on any of all this exciting stuff regarding the national tournament. So now we look to the latest ARC numbers, and last time St. Francis and Marion were second and third, or first and second. St. Francis was first, Marion was second. This week it is flip-flopped. Marion is first, St. Francis is second. Rio Grande was previously third. They remain third. Spring Arbor and Huntington were fourth and fifth last time. They remain fourth and fifth this time. Indiana Tech was seventh last time. They moved up one spot to sixth. Bethel out of Indiana was ninth last time. They now have moved up to seventh. Indiana Wesleyan remains in that number 8 spot in the North Arc, just like they were in the last one. Shawnee State was 10th last time, and they fell to 12th. Olivet Nazarene now moved up to 10th. They were previously 13th. And then St. Francis of Illinois last time was 11th. They remain 11th in the North Arc. And then Shawnee State fell to 12th. They previously were 10th. And Rochester Christian, actually Midway last time was 14th. They moved up one spot to 13th. Rochester Christian previously was 12th. They fell one spot to, actually fell 2 spots to 14th. St. Xavier out of Illinois last time was 15th, and they remain 15th. Brescia was 16th last time, and they remain 16th this time. So that is an updated view of that. Now, however, of course, a couple of these spots are skewed because you have Rio Grande that's third right now in the North Arc. They've already punched their ticket into the national tournament because they won an auto bid out of the River States with winning the regular season. So you kind of have to take them out of the rating because they've already punched their ticket as an auto bid. Same thing with Indiana Tech. They're sixth in the North Arc. However, they're another team that has punched their ticket to the national tournament with an at-large bid, or not an at-large, I apologize, as an auto bid for winning the WAC regular season. So technically, and of course Olivet Nazarene, they're currently 10th. They're another team that officially needs one more win to clinch the regular season title in the CCAC and punch their ticket to the national tournament. So basically, when you take out Rio, Indiana Tech, and Olivet Nazarene, you would be left with the following order in the North Arc. Marion would be first, St. Francis would be second, Spring Arbor would be third, Huntington would be fourth, Bethel out of Indiana would be fifth, Indiana Wesleyan would be sixth, Taylor would be seventh. Then you would have St. Francis out of Illinois being 8th, Shawnee State out of Ohio 9th, Midway out of Kentucky 10th, Rochester Christian out of Michigan 11th, St. Xavier out of Illinois 12th, and Brescia out of Kentucky being 13th. That is how technically the North Arc should look because of those 3 teams I mentioned punching their ticket into a national tournament via an automatic bid out of their respective conference. So basically, now, obviously, the higher up in your arc, the higher the chance that you would host. Now, with Indiana Wesleyan technically being in that number 6 spot in terms of the North Arc, could you say they would have a chance at hosting? Yes, I think more so for them to host. They probably more than likely would have to run the table these last 2 games of the regular season. Number 4, Marion tonight, and Bethel on Senior Day on Saturday. And not just that, but winning in the opening round of the Crossroads League tournament next Tuesday, that either more than likely would be at Huntington or maybe hosting Bethel at home once again. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see how all that plays out because there's a lot on the line in terms of playoff seeding implications, not just tonight, but maybe as well as on Saturday. So we're going to have to see how all that plays out. But that is a look at the North Arc in terms of the latest Arc standings. I hope that this was super helpful to you. And again, if it was, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. And I'll be back with you tomorrow recapping all of the games from tonight, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then on Sunday, recapping all the games from Saturday, so make sure again that you stay tuned for that. And then on Monday, going over the second to last RPI numbers, so again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then, of course, next week, recapping the Crossroads League Tournament quarterfinal games next Wednesday, and then recapping the men's Crossroads League Tournament quarterfinal games next Thursday. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then, of course, recapping all of the women's games from the semifinal round next Saturday, or next Saturday morning, and then, or next Saturday afternoon, I should say, and then recapping all the men's semifinal games next Sunday. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then that takes us into the first week of March, recapping the Crossroads League Tournament Championship game for both men and women, going over the final RPI, ARC, and quad records, and then recording a video previewing the national tournament with writing down some notes in terms of teams that I think, and just in terms of the bubble teams only, and the G-Pack, the Crossroads, and the Mid-South, going over all of those numbers with you, team statistics, all that good stuff. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for all of that. So before I end this video, I do want to mention all of the other ARC standings just briefly. Again, I normally would not do this, but I figured I would share this information with you in case you are closely following another team that's outside of the North Arc, which again I primarily focus on. So your ARC standings in the East are Freed Hardman, number 1, Bethel out of Tennessee, then Lindsey Wilson, Campbellsville, Loyola out of Louisiana, William Carey, Mississippi, then Tennessee Southern, Southeastern. Now Southeastern, they're in that number 8 spot. They already clinched the regular season championship in the Sun Conference, and they've already punched their ticket into the national tournament. So again, you kind of have to take them out of that number 8 spot because they've already clinched a bid into a national tournament. So technically, you would have Georgetown in that number 8 spot, Faulkner out of Alabama in the 9th spot, then Cumberland's Kentucky, Cumberland, Tennessee, then Kaiser, St. Thomas, Milligan, and Reinhardt. Now again, Milligan and Reinhardt are fighting for the Appalachian Conference regular season championship. So again, that's obviously pretty exciting. Then in the Midwest region, you have Dordt, number 1 in their ARC, no surprise there. Evangel out of Missouri. Evangel's already punched their ticket to the national tournament because they won I believe they are in the, what conference are they? I believe they're in the KCAC, I'm pretty sure, Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference. And then you have Dakota. So basically you have Dordt number 1, Dakota Wesleyan number 2, Friends out of Kansas 3, then Concordia, Nebraska, then Mid-American Nazarene out of Kansas, Columbia out of Missouri is another team. They punched their ticket out of the American Midwest Conference, the AMC. So again, you take out Evangel and Columbia. You would have Dordt number 1, Dakota Wesleyan number 2, Friends number 3, Concordia number 4. You would have Mid-American Nazarene number 5, Hastings number 6, Benedictine, Kansas number 7, Bethel out of Kansas number 8, Briar Cliff out of Iowa number 9, Grandview out of Iowa 10th, then St. Mary, Kansas 11th, Northwestern out of Iowa 12th, Williams Baptist out of Arkansas 13th, and Bethany out of Kansas in 14th. And the South, Langston, that is number 1 in the South Arc. They've already punched their ticket to the national tournament I stand corrected. They have not clinched their bid into a national tournament. I stand corrected. One more win they would. Mid-America Christian out of Oklahoma is 12th. LSU Shreveport is 3rd in the South Arc. Shreveport's the team that has already clinched an auto bid in the Red River. So you take them out of the running. You have Langston, number 1, Mid-America Christian, number 2, Nelson out of Texas, number 3, College of the Ozarks out of Missouri, number 4, Science of the Arts out of Oklahoma would be number 5, Texas A&M San Antonio would be number 6, Texas A&M Texarkana would be 7th, Oakwood out of Alabama would be 9. Well, actually, Georgia Gwinnett would be number 9, and then Oakwood would be, well, really, you'd have Georgia Gwinnett number 9. Oakwood doesn't matter. They already punched their ticket via an auto bid into a national tournament by winning the HBCU regular season. And then in the West, ARC, Dakota State number 1, Lewis Clark State 2, then Corbin, followed by Carroll out of Montana, Oregon Tech, Montana Tech, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, Rocky Mountain, College of Idaho, the Masters out of California, Hope International out of California, Montana State Northern, Providence out of Montana, Montana Western, and Simpson out of California. Simpson, though, would be in position. Now again, whoever wins the CalPAC Tournament Championship gets the gets the auto bid international tournament. Right now, Simpson is leading that conference. So again, we'll see how all that plays out. So that is an updated view of all of the conference, or excuse me, out of all the arcs. I stand corrected. As of today, that is an updated view of all the arcs. And again, if you did find this video helpful and or informative, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly, and I truly appreciate any feedback that you may provide me. Thanks so much for tuning into this video today. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow recapping all the Crossroads League games from tonight. There's a lot of playoff seeding implications on the line, so please make sure that you don't miss out on that video tomorrow. Please subscribe to my channel so you do not miss out on that. And again, my goal is to hit 500 subscribers by the end of this year, so please let's hit that number and get that subscriber count up. And thanks so much for tuning into this video. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.